Good evening, folks. Welcome to another edition of Crime Time with DutyRon, a retired New York City police detective with 20 plus years in law enforcement. And folks, if you like all things true crime related from a police perspective, please hit that subscribe button and hit your notification bell so you will get all things DutyRon when I go live or when I upload another video. And I want to say a special thank you to all of my Patreon supporters and channel members and the moderators who come every night when we go live or when we upload and watch these videos and help to keep everything running smoothly. You guys are an intricate part of this community, and I say thank you to each and every one of you. And of the folks that are watching the replay, thank you to my replay viewers. You guys are awesome as well. Tonight, I have a very special guest, and before I introduce her, I want to just go over, we're going to talk about the Summer Wells case, what's currently going on with the case. This is our 5-year-old who is reported missing on June 15th of this year out of Tennessee. And then we're going to also, towards the end of this video, talk about Orrin and Orson West. Those are our boys who went missing December 21st, 2020 from California City and Bakersfield. So guys, I want to say a special thank you to everybody for tuning in. I see everyone's coming on in. We're going to show just a little bit of media here. I want you guys to get an idea of who my first guest is and who's going to be joining me. She's super special, guys. She's super special. She has a lot of experience in the law enforcement field. And not only that, is she talks about criminal cases across the country. So before I introduce her, I just want to play a quick little piece of media for you guys so you guys can get a good idea of who's coming on. And I know a lot of you have already sent into DutyRon.com how excited you are. So let me just quickly add this to the stream, and we're going to get going.
I'm Lisa Lockwood, former U.S. Air Force Desert Storm veteran, heavy equipment operator, Airman of the Year, Air Force wide. I'm a former police officer, detective, firearms instructor, and SWAT team member. I worked undercover for 5 years, infiltrating the mafia, catching sex predators on the internet, working with drug dealers, working with informants. I posed as an exotic dancer, a stripper, a Hooters waitress, a crack addict. A lot of the dangers involved with those things, not having a wire and a gun, is exactly what a confidential informant has to go through. I know what it's like living in those shoes. When I think back to my high school days, I always wanted to be an actress. And I actually thought when I graduated high school I'd go to Hollywood and work in soap operas. So when I became a police officer, it was almost like I had the ability to use those acting skills in having incredible arrests working with the detective unit. So it was kind of like a win-win. One of the biggest investigations that I worked on was a mafia-tied fencing operation. And my role as an undercover agent was to be a stripper. That resulted in an incredible search warrant where we seized a lot of property, a lot of money, and I also received the Grand Cordon Award with the police department for my role. In 29 months, we had 77 arrests, 15 of which were charged with Class X felonies for delivery of controlled substances. We executed 23 search warrants, recovered 8 firearms, including a MAC-10. Seized in excess of $150,000 that had to do with illegal narcotic trafficking and dealing. We seized 4 vehicles. We confiscated in excess of $90,000 in narcotics from cannabis, ecstasy, hash, heroin, and seized 297 fraudulent prescription forms. So with that, our chief believed that we qualified to receive this, which was the Officer of the Year. Working with informants is not always easy. No matter what kind of screening law enforcement does in order to ensure that an informant is going to be in their integrity, there still runs the risk of getting burnt. What does getting burned look like? An informant decides to work both sides, meaning they'll get paid for working with law enforcement in order to help ensnare the criminal, but what they'll also do is they'll tip off the target. And what that does is it puts everybody in jeopardy. My reinvention in my new life after law enforcement was to become not only an author, but a coach, reinvention expert, and inspirational speaker. So I became certified as a hypnotherapist. I do timeline therapy with individuals and also neuro-linguistic programming. And these are the certifications for that. My name is Lisa Lockwood. Thank you.
Awesome. Wow. Some really great credentials. My next guest here coming on in is Lisa Lockwood. She is taking out her time from her busy schedule, and I greatly appreciate you being on the program. Lisa, welcome.
Thank you so much, DutyRon. I appreciate you having me, and I love what you do on your show, especially now. This topic is just so timely with missing children and so important that you give it the airtime. Thank you.
Thank you. And you know what? You couldn't have said it any better. We have an epidemic of children going missing across our country. And the two cases that I contacted you about, you were just so kind enough to immediately oblige and say, hey, DutyRon, I'm on board. Let's talk about this. So we have Summer Wells out of Tennessee, northeastern Tennessee, reported on June 15th by her parents, Don and Candace Wells. The circumstances that this child went missing under are extremely concerning for a couple of reasons. Is that the story just doesn't kind of add up. I gave you an opportunity to look over this case. CBI, who we know, the state men and women in the CBI, they do a great job, and the local sheriff's department and the FBI is involved in this. I'd like to get your thoughts. I mean, we have about 372 people here. I'd like to get your thoughts, Lisa, on initially what I sent to you.
So looking over the case, and this has been going on for a while now, that Summer has been missing. A lot of things pop in my mind. So first of all, just so you know, statistically, annually, we're looking at about 400,000 reports of missing children. And percentage-wise, about 82% of those are from a non-custodial parent. So, you know, a relative or somebody who knows them. And then we've got runaway children, we've got what's called throwaway children, and then we have abductions. And then a small percent have to do with strangers. And a lot of times incidents happen within the house, and domestic incidents where a child is hurt, ultimately injured, a death has been caused, and then a body is disposed of, in a sense. So just statistically, to give an idea about how frequently this happens, and a child goes missing every 40 seconds, just to show you how relevant this is. The first 6 hours, you know, there's this sweet spot, and you know that more than anybody, of the initial report from the child being missing, the area canvas that takes place right away, getting boots on the ground and having everybody out there as soon as possible, especially when they're a child and they're 5 years old. How far can they possibly wander if it's not an abduction, if it's just a walk away from the home? And having that happen right away is important. So we needed to find out, okay, we know mom said that she saw her daughter go into the house after the planting of the flowers. Her sons were in the house. They were aware that she was there. They told mom 2 minutes later, she said 2 minutes later, she went in to wash her hands and called out for Summer, and they said she's in the basement, went in the basement, and then found that the basement door was unlocked. So something is off for me with that timing, because timelines are so important. Maybe it wasn't 2 minutes, maybe it was a little bit longer. Sometimes parents feel responsible that their 5-year-old child is out of their sight for a certain amount of time, and they may fluff those numbers. And that's important. It's important for police officers not to take everything at face value when they're taking the report for that timeline. Right. So, you know, initially we're looking at that. What could possibly happen in that time period? So without going over the entire case and giving you all kinds of information as we look at the timeline, just look at that piece right there and then start working backwards from it.
Lisa, you brought up some really great points, and we've covered the different aspects of this case time and time again. And, you know, one of the reasons I brought you on is because, you know, I value other former law enforcement's opinions, and somebody like yourself who covers a variety of different cases. I've seen you cover everything from, you know, A to Z. So this insight is important to the audience. And not only that, it's always good. The captain who is in charge of the search of this particular case has said it's always good to have extra sets of eyes, because no two investigators see things the same way. And before I forget, because I already did forget, I want to say thank you for your service to the country, and thank you for your time served as a police officer, a detective, and a firearms instructor, and all the things that you've done. I played that media, and I just got so excited that you were here, I forgot to say thank you. And my whole audience is thanking you as well.
Thank you.
Yes.
I appreciate you.
Yeah.
I appreciate you saying that.
It's an extreme honor when I see men and women who have served, and you've done everything from, again, like I said, A to Z with these cases, and you continue in your time away from law enforcement to continue to educate the public. I love your YouTube channel too, and I'm going to encourage everybody to subscribe to Lisa's YouTube channel. It's a work in progress. She's going to be updating and changing stuff, but she does the bolo on her YouTube channel. Do you want to talk just a little bit about that?
Sure.
I love that because I'm all about crime and safety.
Right. So something it's near and dear to my heart, obviously crime and safety, finding out what happens when people are outdoors and doing their business and they come across a situation where they are potentially a victim of a crime or they've fought their way out of a crime, something like that. So to me, it's all about preventative. So even when I was a police officer and we would have these town halls, what things are important that are happening in the community that you can give as tips to keep people safe? And it's also seasonal. What happens around, vacation and travel time when you leave your house? What happens around Christmas time? People are doing, vehicular hijackings or trying to get in your vehicle. They know you have extra money at that time of the year. So, it marks every occasion throughout in all the different seasons that certain crimes become more relevant, more prevalent. So what I like to do with Bolo, be on the lookout, is just to give a quick kind of 1.5 minute of information that would happen in a roll call at work as a police officer and share what's going on in your communities and kind of giving an overall way to keep yourself safe. So that's the reason for Bolo. And I just want to expand on that a little bit more because I know, everything from children to internet safety to scams and frauds against your relatives and the elderly, senior citizens, COVID-19 frauds. The list goes on. Vehicular hijacking is just taking on, it just becomes so progressive across the nation. And we know that, burglaries, etc. So that's the purpose.
And another thing I saw that you did, Lisa, and I want to point this out because it's important for the people that are out here. So many households across America are legal firearms holders. They have permits to carry and possess firearms. You did a recent Bolo, or within the recent past, of gun safety. And I think that one was an outstanding episode, short, 1.5 minutes. A lot of people don't watch YouTube for an hour or two. When you put out these Bolos and you include firearm safety, that to me says that you are covering all grounds. And thank you for that, because a lot of my former colleagues have lost children to non-secured firearms. So
it gives me goosebumps. That's something that is what I call an unforced error. There's no reason children, babies, should have access. And we know that. I know when I was a kid, I loved going through my parents' drawers, looking under the mattress. I knew they hid things, and kids are curious. Expect them to be curious, expect them to try and find a combination or a key to a safe, etc. So it's extremely important.
Yeah, and you covered all grounds with that. Like, don't put the combination or the key somewhere where they can find it. So it was great. And kudos to you for doing that. I want to circle back to Summer Wells. The parents, I don't want to bore everybody and play the parents' interview. I know you watched it. I sent it to you. They talked about playing at this watering hole, picking up her mom from the hospital, waiting for Walgreens to get a prescription filled, and then coming back with the planting. And then you just described what happened. The child went inside. Allegedly, she told the kids to watch. Kids, obviously said she went down into the basement. But my questions and a lot of folks have these questions is like, if you're picking up your parent from the hospital, in that same day, coming out and planting flowers, the whole story kind of stinks to high heavens, as I say. And my folks that are here in the chat that are regular, subscribers, people that come around, I called it from day one. And this is just my experience. The hair on my arm stood up when I heard the first interview. It's just a detective's intuition. The thing of it is that for me, I say the story stinks, and it doesn't add up. It doesn't make sense. And how could someone just vanish in the middle of the country? There's mountains, a 5-year-old, no less, never mind an adult, a 5-year-old. Your thoughts on this child getting out of arm's arm's reach within moments, or even if it was 10, 15 minutes.
Yes, and it's an isolated area as well. So like you said, it didn't pass the sniff test that somebody's getting out of the hospital and going home, and then all of a sudden we're planting flowers.
Right.
So that part, it just did not make sense. It just didn't pass. And that small window, that time frame of my daughter just wanted to go back in the house. And when she went back in the house, it was only 2 minutes before I went in and said, "Oh, where's your sister?" And all of a sudden, that was happening. So it just didn't fit. And I know initially grandma wasn't being active regarding the interview. And, what was the reason for that? Why was she initially resistant to being part of the interview? So what happened in the window prior to that? That's the concern. And here's what we also know. What do we know? In the end, there's over 3,000 acres that were searched, 82 agencies that helped with this search. Air, dive teams, canine, professional search teams, drones, everything that could have possibly have been deployed was out there.
Over
935 tips came in and still continue to come in.
Lisa, I'm showing a Google Earth overview of the property where this is the main house right here. And as I zoom in, it gets a little blurry, but there's a main house and there's a small trailer that grandma lives in. But
Right.
This is a look for my viewers at 110 Ben Hill Road. It's a very rural area and very mountainous. As I pull out, you have, flat plains, but the property behind and in and around this place just doesn't add up that a kid would go in and in 20 minutes, and even as she said, a few minutes, just disappears. It just doesn't make sense. And like you said, the amount of terrain that was searched and covered. Today, the TBI and the local authorities took the Amber Alert off of the expressways and the highways over there, and people were up in arms about it. How dare them? How dare an Amber Alert is for a missing child, and it's to get people's attention. At this point in the investigation, they feel that Amber Alert is not going to help, because now they're looking to recover this girl and find where she is. And a lot of people just don't understand it. And from a law enforcement standpoint, I know exactly why that Amber Alert was taken off. We're going into a month here. Amber Alerts for someone that's been abducted or taken against their will, and you want to try to find. There was urgency to find. It's off the board now because the investigation has gone into another direction, unfortunately. And I don't like to be the bearer of bad news, but this is the truth. This is the truth of the matter of the investigation.
That's how it works. Exactly. It's not urgent. It's not the first 72 hours. And it was actually up longer than most other Amber Alerts had been up for missing children. But it's hard to, when you have a child, lay people, public citizens, they don't understand what the reason is. They use that and how they use it and the purpose of it. So, if they realize that it was up longer, and at that point, we don't believe that we have a person who's driving around the vicinity still, with this child in the car. And unfortunately, we are expecting a recovery, not so much bringing home a healthy child.
Correct. We always hold on to a glimmer of hope. And, as parents, it's just heart-wrenching when you start talking about a month, no end in sight with, thousands of leads that they're following up on. The amount of acreage that we talked about that they searched. It's just, people just want to, get closure. They want answers. They want to find out what happened. And it brings me to my next point. We have so much community unrest in the area in Hawkins County. The folks there are up in arms. And I heard the sheriff today and a TBI spokesman talk about, and also the father, Donald, who made a statement that his wife, his mother-in-law, and himself, their lives are being threatened online. So you have this mob mentality of people that are convicting them. We know under the Constitution, we're all afforded, innocent until proven guilty, and we have to stay focused on that. As much as we feel that their stories are not jiving, under the Constitution, you're afforded innocent until proven guilty. I
Of course.
want to get your take on, and I've already made a statement about, the bullying and making it makes in my opinion, it makes the folks that are doing it just as bad as the criminals that are out there on the street. So,
Absolutely, absolutely. You're not going to get a good result with that. So, rumors, conspiracy theories, et cetera, convicting somebody, in public opinion, that it doesn't work and it doesn't help going forward. Everybody needs to help with the continuation of giving leads and the search. And right now, the biggest thing, the one piece that they have is this vehicle that they seen in the area. It was either the night before or the day that she went missing. And the description they gave out was a red Toyota Tacoma, maroon, red in color, between 1998 and 2000. And it had some white buckets and a ladder rack on the top of it. So they want to be able to find out where, why was that in that area and picked up on cameras and security cameras. They just want to interview that person, and they still haven't been able to come up with that vehicle and why that vehicle was in the area. And again, it could mean nothing, but to have that person come forward who is driving that vehicle and be able to have that interview just to see if they can get a lead is extremely important.
I couldn't agree with you more. And, again, like you said, we need the public's help. Law enforcement needs the public's help. We need people to come forward that have seen something or heard someone say something that is of value to an investigation. Now, there's a lot of misinformation being shared, and I like to call Facebook sometimes fake book. You can get some real bad misinformation, and I can't even tell you how many of my subscribers and friends have come to me with, "Hey, DutyRon, did you see this, this, and this?" And I go and vet it, and it's just a false rumor.
Just garbage.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So what I try to discourage my folks here is to wait for a statement from either law enforcement or a verified media source. Because as you know, Lisa, working in the media, in the business that you're in, the stories need to be vetted. They don't just go, listen, we have good and bad in everything, every type of profession. Some reporters may get things right. Some reporters may get things wrong. I get pissed off at my weatherman all the time when he tells me it's going to be a good weekend and I can't go out to the beach. But, we have to go and use common sense. It's all about a 5-year-old missing girl. So right. At the end of the day, to throw out, threats and, all these different accusations, threats, things of that nature, it contributes to nothing positive. Again, we're going to start talking in a few minutes about Orrin and Orson West. An example of positive energy would be like I sponsor the digital billboards from the proceeds of my channel for Orrin and Orson West on Highway 99 in Bakersfield. We've done that for 5 months.
Fantastic.
So $5,000 in donations from my viewers has been redirected to that. And for me, that's a positive interaction and a positive light statement towards the case. Calling in bogus leads where you're having law enforcement going looking from maybe a psychic standpoint and somebody's seen a vision, that's just bogging down the investigation. Let's go and stick to good solid leads. And Sheriff Lawson, who has a small department, Lisa, he begged and pleaded in his southern charm, his very, very polite man. You can tell that this guy is a career law enforcement professional. He begged people, please don't bog down my fellas, don't bog our folks down.
And people want to help, so it's a two-way street. They want to be helpful. They think something may be a good tip, and it's not always. And then there's people who just want the notoriety to be part of it and to say things. And unfortunately, that's all the vetting, and that puts those resources, trying to vet and find out if these are good leads. It takes them away from doing the other stuff that they need to do in order to try and find where this baby went.
Right. And I want to also add into that Rogersville, Tennessee, a very small community, Northeast Tennessee. There's wonderful people. There's good church folks. There's great people who want to see they want justice to be served, or they want this child found. So they are now also part of this re-victimization by fake book, stories and rumors. And, I've seen so many posts that say, oh, they're on to something. They found something here. They found something there. And, you check with law enforcement and there's nothing. So
Right.
it is something that bogs it down. Again, Candace Wells and Donald Wells have the assumption of innocent until proven guilty, and anybody for that matter. We have so many cases that are outstanding right now. You have Suzanne Morphew's husband, Barry Morphew, who's been charged with first-degree murder. He is awaiting the processing. He's innocent until proven guilty, but everybody under the sun hates that man.
Right.
He's already guilty in the court of public opinion. So again, I really do appreciate you chiming in on this, because it does mean a lot when folks hear it from the different sources, and it's important. The police and the investigators need the public. And the public.
Yes, the alliance with the public is so valuable, and I don't think they're aware of it. And that was another thing that I like to train people. It's okay to call the non-emergency number to report something that you feel is fishy. People have their intuition. You don't have to be a police officer. I know probably most of your viewers right now who probably watch true crime, who maybe wanted to be in law enforcement or prior to that, and they start to develop all these great skills and instincts along the way. And that's valuable. So, do that. Make that phone call, talk to the police officer, talk to administration, and say, hey, something seems off, even if it's small. And that's one of the things that the sheriff said. If it's something that you don't feel that is just not right, or you remember it later, even if time had passed, give us a call and let us know what it is.
Absolutely. Hey, Lisa, I'm going to segue over into the boys, Orrin and Orson West.
Okay.
3 and 4 years old. They're now 3 and 4. Now one of them is 4 going on, and the other one is going to be 5 next month. Sincere and Classic was their birth names, and when they were adopted, they were changed the names to Orrin and Orson West. I'm going to show a little bit of media, but before I get into that, I'm going to, if it's okay with you, look at some of the chat to see if there's any questions for you or for myself.
Sure.
So folks, special thank you to Factual Breakdown. I appreciate you being here and a channel member. I know you have family members who are retired law enforcement. So Factual Breakdown, thank you for being here. Princess Michelle from Arizona, great to see you. I just need to say hello to some of these folks because they're here in the chat, and I like to be
glad they're here.
Yes, Lewis Martin, thank you so much for being here. Hi, Carol. Good to see you. Thank you. And any questions for Lisa Lockwood, just put them on in the chat, and I will pick and choose a couple. Thank you, Enlightened One. Very, very nice to see you. Thank you. Nicole says, DutyRon, the second part of the rumors today are that they're using helicopters and cadaver dogs near or around a well on their property. Any truth in that? Nicole, thank you for putting that question in. I can tell you that I have checked with the Hawkins County Search and Rescue. I checked their site for updates. I checked with TBI. I don't personally check in with them, but if there was some type of activity, you would hear it on a police scanner, and there would be chatter, and the local media would pick up on it. So I would say at this point, I have not verified that, but thank you for that question.
That's great. And if I could say one thing to Nicole as well, anything that you see, go ahead and put it in your search browser, whatever it is, Google, and just put it in, as far as new developments, because you will see that. You will see it as something that's new and breaking in the case that they'll want to share with the public. Even if, like DutyRon said, if it's leaked, if it had not been publicized by the police department, people do have scanners, and that information comes out and media will pick it up. So always just go to Google and check it out there.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Lisa. Now, Princess Michelle is a channel member and a good friend. I know that she sometimes makes little typos. So she means, what are Lisa's gut feeling about summer at DutyRon? Thank you, Princess Michelle.
Hi, Princess Michelle. One of the things that I think is important, and I'm not privy to, obviously I'm not part of the investigation, but the interview of the boys, because that was the story that the mother said, that she went in the house and the boy said, oh, she's downstairs. And that would have been important in the initial part of the investigation to find out if they had indeed seen her in the house at that time. They returned from the hospital. All of a sudden they're planting flowers. She said, watch your sister. And then 2 minutes later, she comes in, where's your sister? So I think it's important to have those children interviewed and maybe even re-interviewed, kind of even a surprise interview. They said they were cooperating, and you have to be very careful with children. I don't know the ages of the 3 boys right now, but I think that's important to really find out if she had even been at the house and returned home and was part of the trip to the hospital.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that, Lisa. And I want to just highlight quick, Jen Lowe, happy birthday. It is her birthday today. So big happy birthday. Wishing you many more years of health and happiness, Jen Lowe. She chimes in with, what big advice would you have for people that you train in regards to missing children? That's for you, Lisa.
Sure. I don't train anybody as far as missing children, but just from police knowledge, and DutyRon would know the same thing. Initially, when you get the case, those first hours are so important. Those are the golden hours in the investigation. Police officers will search the entire house first because children hide. And a lot of times they are found in the house, in the dryer, in somewhere in storage, in a crawl space. They're playing hide and seek. They're young. They don't understand that it's something serious when their parents are looking or calling out for them, and even somewhere on the property. So that's the first part of it, is do that search very well. You know, missing children, call right away. If this should ever happen to anybody on here who has children, don't even think like I'm going to go try and find them first. You call instantly 911. I lost sight of my child. Trust me, the police want to help. It's not an inconvenience. Make the phone call and get boots on the ground as fast as possible to help search for your child.
Amen to that. And if I can add into it, I'm going to put myself back on because Lisa's like, hey, DutyRon, why is everybody just looking at me? I think it is so important that if you have, like Lisa just said, any inkling that something's going on, you lose sight of your child, do not waste a valuable moment. It needs to be reported immediately. And if you find your child before the police arrive, then you can simply just call back and say, hey, I've located my child. They just missed, you know. I can tell you from my own experience, I was at City Field in Flushing in New York, and my wife, I'm married 30 years. Lisa, everybody knows this, but I'm letting Lisa know I'm married 30 years. So my boys are 25 and 29. So this was a while back. My oldest, I lost sight of him at City Field on the field. We had on-field passes. And my wife told me before we left, I think he was about 6 or 7, don't you lose Frankie. Don't you lose. And I said, hon, I got this. And I turned my back because one of the cops I was with, it was a police function. They were talking to me. I turned my back, and now I look and I didn't see my kid. And it was literally a minute or more, maybe a little bit more than a minute. My heart sunk. It was the most horrifying thing. And I've seen the World Trade Center. I've seen police officers, unfortunately, shot. I've seen people shot and killed. And this was my son. I lost him for just moments, and it was devastating. So think about what these folks that have missing children that are outstanding, or missing people, missing family, adults. It's just horrific. So you do what you can to make that report and get it out there quickly and get those boots on the ground, and the folks that are trained to do they start from the inside and they work their way out.
Right.
Brandy Beans says, is it possible that the mom misjudged the 2 minutes if she was high? Listen, these are assumptions. We can't assume that she was high or drunk or whatever, but we can say, I can tell you this. I sometimes, when someone asks me, how long were you over here? I could say 10 minutes and it's really 20. I could say 2 minutes and it was really 8. So
Right.
not be too critical about that. What's important is that, you know, they're cooperating with as much as we know, because the sheriff is telling us this, and TBI, that they are cooperating. And what cooperating means is when they ask questions, or if they ask them to come in, they come in and they talk. But that doesn't mean that they're giving proper answers.
True information, right?
So, you know, don't be misguided by the TBI and the sheriff saying that these folks are cooperating, meaning that they're being angels and that they are not, you know, suspects in any way. Trust me, the sheriff, Ronnie Lawson, said, we are looking at everybody. That means the aunts, the uncles, the friends, the pastors, the church people, their friends, who they associated with, who their friends associated with, what their criminal history is. And we all know they both have a criminal history. Okay, right. That's public record. So they both have not been angels, him more than her. They have records in Utah. They have records in Wisconsin, records in like 3 or 4 different states for the husband. So at the end of the day, that all goes into the investigation. And you could bet your bottom dollar, no rock gets unturned. And sometimes they get unturned several times.
Right.
We always revisit, as you know, Lisa. Let me go quickly to this piece of media for Orrin and Orson West. This is going to take about a minute. So if you need to take a break, Lisa, you can take a break. I'm going to go full screen with it. I want everybody to see, this is Chief Greg Terry from the Bakersfield PD. He is going to give an update. This is from a couple of days ago.
It's 163 days since the boys were first reported missing in Cal City. Of course,
Okay, this is a little bit older than that. This is 163. We're over 200 and some odd days. So this is a little bit old, but this is going to give you guys an idea of what they're doing and what is going on.
We've talked about this months ago that your agency, the Bakersfield Police Department, has become the lead agency on this case. 163 days. You're saying the case is not cold. Why?
It is not a cold case. As you can see yesterday from the stats that we released, this is still very much an active case, and we are looking at every possible lead. You know, one of the things about this particular case is 2 young boys, they don't just disappear. They don't just walk away on their own. Something happened at that day or in those days or at that residence. And so we are paying attention to every possible detail about what was reported, how it was reported, what was going on at the time, what had been occurring in the previous days or weeks or months even. So attention to detail is very critical in this case. Yesterday, we released some details to give a little bit of insight into how much we have been doing, but it is very much an active case.
Well, let's go over those numbers one more time. So 170 items seized, 44 search warrants, 16 mass area searches, 3 outside California, and more than 200 tips. You know, these are big numbers. It sounds really impressive. What comes from this?
Every single day, we have a detective dedicated solely to this as a lead investigator, and he's working with a team of experts and analysts, even from other agencies such as the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, technical experts from the FBI. They're diving into every part of the items of evidence, what the statements were, what the just the smallest of details they're looking. So whether it was in a statement, whether it was in an item of evidence, the digital evidence is going to be very important in this case, and we're very much actively searching those items as well.
So the boys were reported missing on December 21st. 163 days ago, they were reported missing. Mm-hmm. Is it possible that, is this something that your department is looking at, that they may have been reported missing on that day, but something could have happened days, weeks, or months prior to that?
The short answer is we don't know what happened to them. And because we don't know, we're looking at everything. We're looking at what was reported, when it was reported, what was going on in the days, weeks, months leading up to that date. Is that the date that they were missing? We just don't know. And because we don't know, we're looking at everything, and we will not stop until we know what happened to these young boys.
You talked about all those little details that your department is looking at. You have a lead investigator that is dedicating his time to this. What have you found? What has the department found in all of these search warrants, items seized, searches, all these tips, 200 tips? What has come from that makes this case go forward?
Leads. Little bits of information, a little bit of a breadcrumb from a witness statement, from an item of evidence that gets seized, from a tip that comes in. We're actively and aggressively pursuing every lead. And so the point of going piece by piece and paying attention to the closest and smallest detail in each of those things provides leads, provides us another step, provides us a potentially additional evidence to find out what happened. Can you assure the community that you're moving forward, your department is moving forward in this investigation? Absolutely. Like I said, we do not know what happened to them, and we're not going to stop until we know.
But there's nothing that has, in those tips and searches, you have been able to find things that have kept this investigation going?
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit.
Okay, I'm going to stop it there. I played that for a good reason. The reason I did play that is I want everyone to understand is that digital evidence is applicable here in Summerwells and in the Orrin and Orson West case. That means all cellular phones, all iPads, all laptops, any digital evidence, the FBI, the TBI, and here in Bakersfield, you have the Kern County Sheriff's, who is they're a humongous department. They're supplementing Bakersfield. Lisa, anything that you have to add on Orrin and Orson West in this case?
Here's one of the things I liked about that interview with the police officer who was being interviewed, is that they still don't know. So right there, that's where the rumors, conspiracy theories, all of that does have to stop, because we don't know what the parents did or did not do, what their involvement was or non-involvement. And the goal of all of this, again, is let's bring these boys home safely. And we know, as I said before, the longer they're gone, the less likely it is that they are brought home safely and something happened and they met their demise somehow. So with the digital evidence, what they're looking for, obviously, all of the cell phone records, all of the texting, all of the computer searches and that sort of thing. But we also know that people who are criminal, not to say that this family is involved in any way, there's something called burner phones. And you are not going to be able to, police officers are not going to be able to trace burner phones because they serve that purpose. And I'm sure your viewers watching right now know what they are. You pay as you go. They have numbers that are not associated to you. You can use aliases to buy them. And that's one of the ways that people get away from law enforcement, by using that in nefarious activity.
Exactly. And, criminals are pretty smart to the game, but what we always hope for is a little slip up or a little piece, as we speak about in the investigative world, a little piece of the puzzle sometimes leads you down a road that branches off to find out the truth. I always say the long arm of the law is always out there, and it winds up grabbing, maybe not right away, but sooner or later, the long arm of the law does reach out and grab you and bring you to justice. So I think in this case, it is so important that everybody understands Bakersfield, California City, these folks are up in arms. The biological family, I have direct contact with them. I have communication with them on a regular basis. There's so much history in that area between law enforcement and the community. It's a deep subject, okay? And I actually got to learn it from work in this case from afar.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a great, in some parts of the Bakersfield community, not a lot of trust in the police, and that's an unfortunate thing, Lisa. It always comes into play when you have, when you don't have cooperation from the public and there's some distrust. It helps to hinder the case a bit. But know this: no matter what type of distrust is there, it doesn't stop them from the mission. And the mission is to find out, as Police Chief Terry said, find out what happened to these boys, and they won't stop.
They won't
find out.
44 search warrants, so much evidence that they have. And he even said it's small crumbs, it's small tips from people, who are around their circle and people that they interviewed. And that tip leads to something else. So eventually they're going to be able to put it together. We're going to find out. We will have a resolution. And trust me, police officers, when it comes to missing children, this is the one that really gets to our hearts. We want closure. We want to be that person. There are sleepless nights, and they're not even part of our family, but they're part of our community. And we don't want to see any foul play happen to kids.
Absolutely. I couldn't have said it any better, Lisa. Thank you for that. Retired Sergeant Melinda is retired from the U.S. Army. She's a combat veteran. So she sends in a $100 super chat. Thank you for your generosity, Retired Sergeant. She says, Lisa, DutyRon, mods, and family, ma'am, I just love what you do and have done from a young to now, helping so many American she says badass, bad arse, author, intelligent, non-biased, and a beautiful soul. You are a mentor to many women. When will you release another book? That's to you.
Oh, Sergeant Melinda, thank you for your service. Thank you for your beautiful comment. Undercover Angel is my book that actually is my memoir, my autobiography. I wrote Reinventing You to help people who are transitioning out of their careers and trying to find what they want to do. And then also contributed to Heart of a Military Woman. And I think they had a second series with that. My question is, when are you going to write your book?
And certainly I have a lot of interactions with her. She's a really great woman, and a single mom doing the best that she can for her child. And and her two grown other children. So
Wonderful.
she is definitely somebody that I look up to. And, you know, I've got quite a few years, 20 years in law enforcement and 30 years in the game of law enforcement. You know, Sergeant Belinda, I tip my cap to you. Keep on doing what you do. And thank you so much for that wonderful message and support. It's greatly appreciated. I'm going to look quickly in the chat for a little bit more question Q&A, and then we'll wrap it up. Folks, just so you know, Lisa Lockwood's, all of her social media and links to her website are in the description of this video. We have almost 900 folks watching here tonight. I appreciate each and every one of you for your positive interactions. It's folks in communities like this that makes the East Tennessee community, the Bakersfield and the California City communities proud of the way you guys conduct yourselves. So you guys are awesome. So I tip my cap again to all of the people in the chat for positively interacting. It's greatly appreciated. Addie, thank you so much for that super chat. She says, Lisa and DutyRon, thank you for your service and thank you for all you do for the community. Hashtag bless you both.
Oh,
Addie, thank you.
thank you, Addie.
Addie, much appreciated. Thank you. Lisa, this is the kind of community I have built here.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah.
I'm honored to be part of it. And here's one of the things you talked about, how different communities have a hard time with police officers, and there's this clash and whatever has happened, and there's bad seeds in every agency and every career field. There are going to be bad seeds, but I'm going to tell you right now, of all the police interactions that happen across our country, and we're talking in the hundreds of millions, with police officers saving lives every single day. They just love what they do. It's an honor for them. They retire, they take care of their families, they take care of families. They sacrifice every occasion, they work overtime, and it's all for the mission of keeping their community safe and doing what they can to help the citizens of their community. So this platform that you're providing, I think, is great because it also allows your audience to see police officers in another light who are no longer in law enforcement, but just hold it so near and dear to our hearts that we just want to continue and have our foot in the door in some way to continue with the education.
Outstanding. Yeah. And you know what? It's so true. I think that to myself often, is that, you know, that bond that you make with we are complete strangers. Now we know each other. It's just reinforcing my faith in humanity. Men and women alike come together on these difficult cases. We put our brains together and we talk about and we brainstorm. And when you get it from a law enforcement perspective, it's not someone that's just Googling and shoving stuff down your throat. I had tomorrow night, I have scheduled Barbara Butcher, who is it's a hell of a last name for a medical examiner, but she's the chief of staff from New York City Medical Examiner's Office. New York City has the largest medical examiner's office in the United States. And she comes on and chimes on and gives her professional opinions and her professional viewpoint on some of these tough cases that we cover. And tomorrow night, we are going to be speaking about a 24-year-old young girl, Christine Engelhardt, who took a vacation on spring break, March 17th, St. Patty's Day, down into South Beach, Florida, and she was brutally murdered and raped and drugged by two perpetrators out of North Carolina. And her autopsy results were just came back from the Miami-Dade coroner's office. So Barbara is going to come on tomorrow night, along with Sergeant Bill Cannon, who's a retired homicide detective sergeant. That's how I met Lisa, folks.
Yes.
Through Police Off the Cuff. He had her, Lisa, on about a year ago, maybe a little bit longer. I happened to be just looking at I didn't know him at the time, but I started looking at some of his videos, and I said, I got to get this woman on my channel because I was fascinated with your career. Nicole Bacon, you're welcome. Nicole Bacon says, at Lisa, we served in Desert Storm together.
Wow, Nicole. That's great. That's awesome. I was Air Force. I'm not sure what branch you were in, but thank you for your service. And I'm glad it was a quick war.
Yeah. I wasn't aware that you served, but thank you for serving in Desert Storm. That was a quick one, but it was still very dangerous. as is any combat in battles. Jiggy, thank you for the $5 super chat. She says, praying for these beautiful children. I'm a new member from Johnson City, Tennessee.
Beautiful.
I want to say my heart and prayers and strength get sent out to the great folks of Tennessee, and especially down at Ground Zero in Rogersville, Tennessee. The community is shook. I do the same and send the same sentiment to my Bakersfield folks. There's tons of Bakersfield people here. I saw in the chat the biological family is here watching, and I thank you for coming. And I know that this is a difficult time. These 6 months have been agonizing, and I've been on the phone with them and spoken with Roro and a couple of family members. So many sleepless nights have gone by. So I send my strength and prayers to you folks daily. There's not a day that goes by that I don't think of sincere and classic Orrin and Orson West.
As do I.
Yeah, it's all these crime victims, Lisa. When we speak about them, some folks think, oh, it's just a job. They're speaking about them and they move on. My wife and I have these conversations over dinner sometimes, and she asks me, "What about the boys? What about this girl?"
Sure.
So it's a part of my family. It's a part of what I do. I don't just hang it up and stop the clock and just forget about it. Let's look at the chat quickly for Orrin and Orson West. A couple of people are just saying hello. Navy vet, very, very great supporter. Naval aviation storekeeper here, Vietnam era Navy vet.
Nice.
Thank
you for your service.
Yes, Navy vet, awesome. The men and women of all of our branches of the military. Without you guys, freedom doesn't come free, as we all know. So thank you for your service. Let's see. Any questions coming on in? I don't want to hold Lisa here because I promised her 30 minutes and we're already at 50. So, again, Lisa, I can't say enough about what you're doing. I encourage everyone to go over. I saw people already put in the chat. I've subscribed. I hope you get a couple of hundred extra YouTube subscribers out of this.
Thank you.
And will you continue to look into this with me and come back, Lisa?
Absolutely, yes. And every piece of this puzzle is interesting. It keeps developing. There hasn't been a stop stick put in front of this. It still continues. So the biological family. I just want you to know my heart aches for you. It's the not knowing that hurts so much. I hope that you have some type of a spiritual outlet. I'm a Christian, and I pray, and God knows what's happening. And my prayer is that He offers you some kind of solace, and that we get a resolution soon.
Excellent. Well said, Lisa. Thank you. Also, too, for my folks who are subscribers and my channel members, I am going to have Mark Class from the Class Kids Foundation. He's going to be joining me next week, and his partner, Brad. We're going to do an exclusive live stream on Summer Wells. He's going to come in and chime in. He's already came and visited us for Orrin and Orson West. He lost his daughter in 1993 in Petaluma, California. A brutal rape, murder, abduction. His child was discarded like garbage on the side of the road, and he went through a living hell. And he gave us his testament. He testified with us here and told us everything that he did with law enforcement to clear himself. He's going to come back on. I sent him an email and a text message, and Mark said, "Ron, I'm so happy to hear from you, and I can't wait to come and talk to Summer Wells." So that's going to be a great show next week. I have to coordinate with him the time and whatever's good. As Lisa knows, I do these shows based around my guests. So whatever's good for Mark is going to be good for me. So look out for that. Lisa, I thank you.
You're a good man, Ron.
Thank you. And I hope you do come back soon, because your input is valuable. It is valuable. And everybody check her out on Law and Crime Network. She did enter a beauty pageant. I want you to talk a little bit about that. I knew I wasn't going to let you go without talking about that. Tell the folks what happened with you and your mom early on, and how that went down.
So I grew up on the south side of Chicago, and came from a poor family. We were on welfare. My parents were high school dropouts, 7 children, and 5 of my sisters were high school dropouts. 3 of them were teenage mothers. And I just was an introvert kid who loved school, did well in school. And my mom wanted to see what she can do to try to get me and help me go to college. So she entered me in the Miss Illinois USA pageant without telling me. And she probably did it so my feelings wouldn't be hurt if I wasn't accepted. But lo and behold, one day I answered the telephone in the kitchen and I get the phone call that I was accepted to compete. Didn't know how or why. I went running to my mom and said, I'm going to be in this pageant. And she says, you did it. I entered you. So I did the best that I could, competed in Miss Illinois USA and ended up placing 25th out of 205 girls, but had 0 experience. I was working as a waitress and trying to figure out how to go to college after I graduated high school, and just kind of winged it and did the best that I could. So soon after that is when I started to research and made the decision to join the military. It was one of the best decisions of my life.
Wow. Hey, Lisa, if you don't mind, how long did you serve in the police department? And if you can, speak about what police department you served on?
Sure. I was on the south side of Chicago. I don't name the department just because of my undercover operations. I went to Chicago Police Academy, graduated from there, and I did a lot of operations with Chicago Police and with FBI, undercover posing as a little girl for internet sex crimes where they were, attempting to have relationships with 13-year-olds and mafia cases and then also narcotics. I was an undercover narcotic detective for 3 years, 5 years on SWAT, 4.5 years on patrol midnight shift, and some of them overlapped. They were concurrent.
Wow. Yeah, that's not an easy thing. When my kids were growing up, I worked patrol and I did midnights, and that's a tough one. That's a tough shift. But yes, thank you for sharing that with us, because I knew I was going to get those questions and I needed to extract it from you. So
Sure.
Thank you for that. Guys, as I always like to end all of these live streams, I love to just put this message out there. God bless the world. God bless the United States of America. And God bless each and every one of us here in the chat and all victims of crime and their families across the globe. I want to say thank you to everyone for joining and all of the support. If you're not yet subscribed, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and follow me on all things social media. One word, DutyRon, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Guys, thank you and good night from New York City and from California. I'll talk to you guys soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Good